you heard someone saying, I want to be a project manager. Or probably you heard someone saying, I'm a project manager. Or someone is saying, my brother is a project manager, my sister is a project manager, my father is a project manager, my mother is a project manager. And they are really trying to understand exactly how do you become a project manager? In case you're interested based on what they're telling you. There are so many ways to become a project manager. And in this video, I'm going to take you through 5 stages that you have to follow for you to become a project manager. So let's get started. So the 5 stages that we're going to cover in this video includes research. It also includes education. It also includes certification. It also includes practice. And then the last one is mastery of project management. So we're going to cover these 5 stages, and let's go through them one by one so that you can understand the stages and the journey of being a project manager. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to take you through the 5 stages that you have to go through if you intentionally want to be a project manager. This is quite helpful, and I can tell you all the stages, they are very, very important. So one day, assuming you have decided that you want to be a project manager, or you want to become a project manager, and you're not sure as to what are you supposed to do, or you're not sure as to what stages you're supposed to follow, but your intention is to become a project manager. Don't worry. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the 5 stages that you need from the beginning all the way up to the end if you want to be a project manager. So project management is intentional. You cannot just wake up and become a project manager. There are so many ways to become a project manager. And in this particular video, I'm going to take you through the specific steps that you have to follow for you to become an intentional project manager. So, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified project and program manager. In this video, I'm going to take you through the journey that is normally followed by people who have intended to be project managers. There are basically 5 steps that we're going to go through, and I would encourage you to watch this video all the way up to the end, because there's going to be a lot of information that you're going to gain, which you can either use it on a personal level, or you can also help someone to use that information. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button, so that you're the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So, in most cases, project management as a career or as a path is normally intentional. You might be asking, what do you mean by this? I've seen in my career, I've seen so many project managers becoming project managers because they intended to be project managers. However, there are also cases where someone becomes a project manager not because they wanted to be project managers. We normally call them accidental project managers, which means they ended up being project managers, but they were not intended to be project managers. If you want to understand more and appreciate what is an accidental project manager, I've also created a video on accidental project manager. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So in this particular video, I'm going to cover mostly the intentional project manager. So this is someone, through either some role model person or through some reading, they've decided that they want to become a project manager. So they can get some inspiration from a number of people, and then they want to understand more. If they want to be project managers, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to read? Where are they supposed to start from? What is the journey? So basically, this is the journey of a project manager that I'm going to cover in this particular video. So let's move on. So in case you want to dive deeper into understanding project management and also into understanding how to improve your project management skills, I've created for you an ebook specifically on project management, which you can find the link in the description below. It will help you to appreciate and understand what is project management, what you need to do during project, what skills you need to do to improve, how do you manage your teams, how do you manage all the stakeholders. So in this section of the video, we are going to go through the research part of the journey. So you might be asking or wondering as to what exactly are you talking about, Oscar, in terms of research. So everything starts with curiosity. That's for sure. you have to be curious in terms of how something is made, how something is being done, how something failed, how something is achieved. So the same also applies to project management. There are some individuals who might get some inspiration from other project managers. I can give you a good example of one of my project members. He's now a very good project manager. There was a time he had to come to me and was asking me so many questions about project management. And I was responding and wondering as to why so many questions coming from a project member about project management. Then after some few months, the guy confessed that actually he wants to be a project manager. That's why he was asking so many questions to me on project management. So his intention was, I want to move away from the consulting part he was doing, or the technical work he was doing, and he wanted to move to project management, but he wasn't very sure as to where to start from, what to do, and what he needs for him to do that. So the first advice I had to give him was go and research more about project management on a personal level. As much as I might give you some guidance, but you need to research more in terms of what is project management and what is required. And after that, you confirm whether you really need to be part of this profession. So it's quite important that when you want to follow this journey of being a project manager, intentionally, you start by doing a research. So when you're doing a research, there are so many questions that you need to ask yourself. What exactly does a project manager do? When someone is being declared a certified project manager, an experienced project manager, what exactly do they do? So that is part of the research that we also have to do. You have to also check. Then the second one, as part of your research that you have also to confirm and conclude, is which type of industry do you want yourself to be involved as a project manager? For example, you might say, I want to be in construction industry. I want to be in ICT industry, for example. Or probably you want to be in research. You want to be in manufacturing, automobile. There are so many industries where project management principles, they're actually applied. So during your research, as part of your journey, make sure that you understand which industry are you interested in working in. Because it could be your lifetime commitment as a PM. So you must choose an industry where you can actually exist for a long time or for so many years to come. So during your research, understand which industry do you want to be a project manager. I'm assuming you're not being guided by anyone. I'm assuming you got some inspiration on project management, probably after reading some books or after going through some YouTube channel. So you need to research very much as to exactly what do you want to be a project manager. Then the next step now is to look at certifications. There are so many certifications of being a project manager. You can even go for project management professional from PMI, or maybe you might want to go for associated certified project manager, or maybe you want to also go for Prince 2 project management. So I don't want to compare the certifications. It all depends on what you want to achieve. However, you still need to research in terms of the certifications of project management. Which one is good for you? Which one is good for your industry? So that is also very, very important. And then the next one that you should also look at is the earnings. You know, project management earnings, they differ from industry to industry, experience, certification, and then also type of project. So you also need to research more on the earnings of those projects that you might want to run, or the industry that you want to be involved in terms of project management. Then the next one that you might also want to look at is the skills, job skills that are required. You also need to research more on that. If you want to be a project manager, what job skills do you need to look into? For example, you might want to be in ICT project manager. It is also advisable that you have some skills in ICT, which means information communication technology. If it's construction, it's advisable. It's not mandatory, but it's advisable that at least you have some certification, some understanding on how construction projects are actually done. If it's automobile, for example, you want to be involved in automobile projects, you also need to make sure that you gain knowledge in terms of what actually transpires during the automobile project. Those skills, they're very, very important, especially when it comes to what is called domain knowledge, understanding what people are saying. I'm not saying as a project manager you should know all those things, no, but I'm saying it's also crucial and very important that you understand some of those things. Then the next one is, there are normally two categories of project management methodologies. So the first one is what is called agile project management. Then the second one is what is called predictive or traditional. Some they want to call it waterfall project management. So you also need to investigate, you also need to research on exactly what you need to actually do. You want to be in agile, or you want to be in a traditional project management. Then you might also want to research more in terms of who are the voices of project management. This day and era where we have internet, AI, and so on and so forth, it's very easy to know or to follow. Like, for example, the video that you are watching right now. You're watching the video from Oscar, who is an experienced project manager, more than 2 decades. It can also help you to understand exactly what this project management is all about. So researching is very, very important, and is one of the critical steps that you should take before you even become a project manager. You need to appreciate and understand, is it really for you? Are you the one made for this? If you are not, it's better to make that decision, then you move on to other professions. So you might be asking, Oscar, assuming I want to start researching, what am I supposed to do? There are so many ways to research. One of them is to join any project management community, just to understand exactly what these guys they talk about. You can even have some online courses just to check, and you can even read books like the PM book for the PMI from PMI. You can also read that book and try to understand if really project management is for you. That is very, very important. The outcome of your research is going to guide you in terms of whether you should proceed to the next stage or you should not. Assuming you have decided that the research has given you enough information and you are now prepared to go to the next stage. That is what we are going to cover in the next section. So, in this section, we are going to cover education. Education is the second stage that you normally follow when you've decided to become a project manager. So the first one, what we've discussed, remember, it was research. So after every research, what normally follow is education. So there are 3 ways to educate yourself if you want to become a successful project manager. The first one is where you get your formal education. Okay, we are going to cover these 3 one by one. Then the second one is when you have your self-paced education process. And then the third one is the practical education. So let's go through them one by one. So the first formal education is when you decide to go for a class. As an example, you want to be a project manager. You attend a class to be a project manager. Say, for example, you join a university, you become a project manager or some college, you get either a degree, you get a certificate, or even a diploma. So intentionally, you're learning towards project management. The other way of doing formal education is also through online courses. You can join an online course, go through the course from the beginning all the way up to the end. By the end of the course, you should be able you should have gained a lot of knowledge in terms of project management. That is also another formal way of getting yourself educated through the journey to becoming a project manager. You can also even attend some professional diplomas that you need to learn. You can also even read some books, and then you write some exams, you get certified. So education is very, very important. Why is it very important? Let me tell you from my experience. There are certain cases where in a project environment, you use certain domain language. Say, for example, if you say, or you ask the question, are we going to use agile or traditional approach in this project? People will definitely know that you know about agile. You also know about a traditional predictive waterfall approach. Then you can also be requested by senior management to provide a status report. So from a project management point of view, a status report is something that you're going to use to update so many stakeholders. Even the word stakeholders, people would want to understand what is a stakeholder. In most cases, a stakeholder, or by definition, a stakeholder is any individual or a group of individuals or organization that is affected, or that is affected positively or negatively by the project, or that are also perceived to be affected by the project. If you want to understand more about stakeholder management, I've created a video specifically on how to manage stakeholders in a project environment. You can watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So domain knowledge is very, very important. And that is the reason why you have to educate yourself. If someone says, I need the critical path, or what is the critical path of your project? Critical path is just the longest path in a project where the activities cannot be delayed. Okay, if you delay the activities, you're going to delay the whole project. Someone is going to ask you, what is the end value from a project? Or someone is going to ask you, what is the cost performance index? You see, so domain language is also very important. So how do you get that? You get it through some education, whether formal or even practical knowledge or even self-paced. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you're the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So the next one, in terms of educating yourself, is what is called self-directing learning or self-paced learning. What do we mean by this? For example, this video that you're going through, you are showing some interest in project management, and therefore you're watching a YouTube video. So YouTube video is also another self-directing learning process. You go through some videos, you learn a lot of things, you take notes, and then later on you practice what you have seen from the videos. So you can also go through some YouTube videos. You can also even read articles on blogs. Like for example, myself, I have this website or blog which I blog about project management. You can also visit it. You learn a lot from that. You can also go to someone's page on LinkedIn, for example. You learn a lot from LinkedIn articles and even some of the posts that you can get. There's also Quora, where people they answer questions. You can also go there and learn. Then the other one is to read books. For example, you can get the PM book. You read about it. You read about the Prince 2 manual. You also read about it. So there are so many ways where you can take yourself on a self-paced approach. But it's one of the process that you can also follow for you to understand the domain knowledge of project management. Then the third way of educating yourself when it comes to project management is to go through the practical knowledge. You might be asking, Oscar, what do you mean by this? So when it comes to practical knowledge, for example, you might start by shadowing one of the project managers, which means when the project manager is actually working, you sit with the project manager, understand what they're doing, even offer to do some of the work they're doing. For example, you can offer to do planning, as an example. You can offer even to do assignment of work packages. You can even offer to do work breakdown structure, risk breakdown structure, and all those things. So it's quite important that you can also shadow a project manager, practically for you to learn. Okay? So how do you do that? In a project environment, in most cases, project managers, they have a very good relationships, or us as project managers, we normally have very good relationships with our team members. So you can ask the project manager, I'm interested in this, I'm not yet qualified, but I think with time I'm going to be qualified. Is it okay, maybe on a weekly basis or monthly basis or fortnightly, I just sit with you to understand and appreciate. So that's another way of learning. And I can tell you learn a lot. I've so many project managers who were former team members of my project, but now they are very, very good project managers. So it's also possible that you can shadow a project manager, then you can learn. Then the second one is you can even offer to do small projects. Okay? What do you mean by this? If there is something, organizational environment or business environment, or even at home, and there's a project to be done, very small, which means you don't need to be very much experienced. You can offer yourself to do that. I can tell you, experience is the best teacher. Once you offer yourself to do those small projects, by the time you finish or you come out of that project, you're going to be a totally different person altogether. I can tell you. So you experience the project environment, you experience the project pressures, you experience the reporting process, you experience the planning approaches, you experience how to manage scope, how to manage procurement, and so on and so forth. So another way of trying to educate yourself is to try to offer yourself to do small projects in an organization or in a business. I can tell you there are so many organizations they'll be quite happy that someone who is not even a project manager, you might be even junior, for example, is interested in doing this. They will also give you an opportunity, okay? As long as you have a sponsor or a senior person who is also working with you, you can also make it even with your first project. So it's quite important that you do that. Then the other way of doing it practically is also to join some project management community, okay? In those communities, you'll find there are small projects coming in, or there are projects which are going to be done as a team. You can also join them, and you can also work with them. So, after going through the research and also after going through the education, most professionals, they find it very important and critical to become certified. So you could be trying to understand why should you be certified. Certification is just a way of validating your knowledge. But I can tell you from my experience, it does not guarantee success, but it's also very important that you get certified. The reason why you should be certified is just like similar to education. You want to be knowledgeable in terms of the domain language of project management. And you also want to prove to people that you know about project management. It has been validated by your certification. So certification is very important. There are so many certifications in project management. I'm going to cover only 4 of them, but it's up to you to pick which one you want and which one you don't want. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what is called Certified Associate Project Manager. It's a PMI course that you also need to take. And I can tell you, this is like an entry-level certification. You don't need to have so much experience. But you need about 23 hours of project management education. And it will consist of at least 150 questions. It's good for beginners, okay? Or even for the ones who are students. You can also use it. But it's an entry-level qualification that you can go through, get yourself certified as a project manager. Then the second one is the project management professional, PMP. You have heard so many people saying, I'm PMP certified, or I'm working towards PMP certification. You can even see some job advertisements also calling out that we need someone with PMP certification. So this is offered also by PMI, which is Project Management Institute. In terms of level, this is a bit on the high level. You need some bit of experience, honestly. I'm not saying even if you don't have experience, you won't pass. You will pass, but you benefit more if you combine your experience and also your PMP certification. It normally requires about 36 months of project experience and also 35 hours of project management training and course. You normally get about 108 questions in the exam, and also very good for experienced project managers. But it also increases your chances of earning more as a project manager. So PMP, which is Project Management Professional, is another certification that you can also go for. Then we have another one called Prince 2, which is normally, it's an abbreviation like a project in a controlled environment on version 2. So this also is it can be used for both entry, low entry or advanced entry for any project manager. You might be experienced or not experienced, but Prince 2 can also be taken by any. You don't need to be very experienced. You can still take it even if you're fresh in project management. It's one of the certifications that you can go for. And it has got two examination, foundation and then practitioner. But I would encourage you also, you do both of them because they have different ways of asking questions, different ways of taking you through some scenarios. It's also a multiple choice question. You can also take it online. Then the last one is also on the PMI, say Agile Certified Project Manager. If you are more into Agile or you want to focus more into Agile, this particular certification is good for you. Then it can be used by entry, low entry, or even intermediary project managers. And you need about 21 hours of training plus some experience on that. And then it's about 120 questions that you go through. So certification is very important. It gives you the leverage in terms of confirming to either employers, organization, or whoever you want to confirm that you have done the certification, you know the project management, you are on the path to become a successful project manager. The fourth stage is now practice in the journey of a project manager. I can tell you from my experience, practice is the best teacher. This is where your theory and the reality they are going to meet. You are now going to face proper deadline being missed. You are also going to deal with stakeholders. Okay? You are also going to do the practical way of actually reporting a project. This is where you are going to face what we mean by project management. This is where the rubber will meet the tar, if I can put it that way. You're going to start dealing with what is called scope creep. What is scope creep? Scope creep is uncontrolled changes coming into the project. And in most cases, this works very well in a waterfall or traditional environment. In an Agile, it's a bit different. Remember, Agile, you are not sure of the scope and you still accept changes as you go. But in a predictive or waterfall approach, you know the scope upfront. Anything that comes in as part of scope, you cannot avoid changes in a project environment. They have to be taken through the proper change management process in a project, just to understand or to assess the impact on project parameters. For example, the impact on project timeline, the impact on the budget or the cost. You also want to see the impact on the scope, also the impact even on the quality or the risks in a project environment. So when you do the actual practice, this is where you start applying all your project management principles. From principle 1 to whatever number of principles that you have. It's also very important. You're also going to deal with escalations and issue management or even crisis management. I can tell you, in a project environment, there's no way you can run a project from the beginning all the way up to the end without escalations, without some issues, or in some cases, without even crisis. What do we mean by this? Issues can come from different angles. And in most cases, you find it could be something to do with even conflict. Issues can come because of conflict. I was, some 4 or 5 years ago, I was managing a project where I had 9 different nationals. And I can tell you, the moment you put people together from different places, different languages, different cultures, different behaviors, there's bound to be some conflict. How does it come about? The way people think is different. The way people do things is different. Even the way people, they work and present themselves is different. So one of the challenges you are going to face is communication. So the way people talk, they might end up raising some unnecessary emotions. So you're going to do a lot of conflict management. Ideas. People can come with different ideas, opposing ideas, totally opposing ideas. You also need to manage that conflict. Okay. So this, when you're doing the practice, this is where you're going to face what really happens in a project. You're going to miss a deadline, as an example. When you miss a deadline, you're going to assess to understand what actually caused that, what we normally call the cause-effect problem. We use what is called Ishikawa diagram to do that. So, you want to understand why is it you missed the deadline. You will get so many explanations, and I can tell you, do it objectively. Don't try to understand why you missed a deadline, like you want witch hunting, which is not good. Try to understand why, so that You correct it now, what is called corrective measures, or maybe you prevent it in future, what is called preventive action. So you miss the deadline, and once you miss the deadline, I can tell you most of the stakeholders, they want answers. So you should be able to provide the answers. How do you recover in such a scenario? So you're also doing status reporting. You're also even managing competing priorities. Let me explain on this. In a project environment, you get a lot of competing priorities. It could be competing in terms of financials. It could be competing in terms of time. It could be even competing in terms of procurement. Okay? It could be even competing in terms of stakeholder engagement. So when you do the practice or the practical way of doing these things, you will always face these competing environments. Okay? So stakeholder management is one of the most important. In fact, there are two, from my experience, there are two items which I think if you master as a project manager, it makes your life very easy. Number one is communication. I can tell you that is the best skill you can ever give yourself. And it doesn't even restrict itself to project management only. We use communication everywhere. In our daily life, in church, in everywhere you go, you also use communication. So if you want to understand more and appreciate more about project communication, I've created a video on project communication. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. I know it's quite a long video, but it's quite helpful once you have gone through that. So you need communication. Then number two, stakeholder management. Okay. Stakeholder management is very, very important. I can tell you, your life becomes very easy if you're engaging and managing your stakeholders properly in a project. And don't make the mistake I've seen with some of the project managers. They think stakeholder management is only done during the first stages of the project. No. Stakeholder engagement and management must be done throughout the project. Even if you have so many phases or stages, you know, a phase or stage in a project environment is just a set of activities that you want to be performed at the same time towards creating or towards making a certain deliverable. I've also created a video on phases and stages. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So stakeholder management is done throughout the project lifecycle. Stakeholders, they come and go. Stakeholders, they even their power also changes, their influence also changes. So when you are doing the practical or the practice of project management as a stage, these are some of the challenges you face. But I'm telling you, it's one of the few. You always face some challenges in a project, but you still have to fall forward. What do I mean by this? You should always be working with the team, engage the team, brainstorm on solutions, okay? Look at alternative, multi-criteria solution alternatives. Choose the right solution, implement it, and also try to check if the implementation or the solution is working as required. It's called the solution review process. So that is very, very important when you're doing the practice of project management, which is the fourth stage. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you're the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So let's continue with the practice of project management stage. There are quite a number of ways where you can practice to be a project manager. And one of them is to capitalize in your current job if you're working, for example. Even if you're not working, you can even practice by painting your house, as an example, creating some application, depending on what skills do you have. You can still practice on how to manage a project, okay? So let's start by looking at what you can do in your current job. The first item is you can also lead some meetings, okay? Project management is all about meetings. These days and age, we are now using virtual meetings. Normally, physical, we have them, but just a few because people are all over the different geographical locations. So you can start even by trying to lead or to chair the next meeting of a small project or even of something that is not even a project. The advantage of doing that, it gives you this kind of confidence that you can talk in front of people. You're an active listener. You can also facilitate. You can also summarize the meetings. You can also control the meetings. I can tell you from my experience, there is no way you can be a project manager without meetings. Either with your team, internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, project leadership, which is the project board or project steering committee, or even regulator. In some cases, I was involved in projects where we had to meet the regulator just to make sure that we understand. And you can also even meet the organizational senior management, which means the management that is outside the project. Because a project must be done for a purpose. So they might want to understand whether that project is actually aligned to their vision or aligned to their strategic goals and objectives. So meetings, you always be having them. So it's another way of trying to practice to do that. Then in your current job, you can also volunteer, okay, to coordinate some of the processes or activities in your organization or business. The reason for doing this is that kind of coordination is what is required when you're a project manager. Us who are project managers, we do what is called integration management. There are so many competing activities in the project environment. And you want to make sure that they work as one. There are different functional members from this direction, different functional members from this direction, but you still need them to deliver. I can give you a good example in one of the banking projects which I worked on. There were functional members from finance. There were functional members from ICT, the technical guys. There were also some functional members also from retail. There were also some functional members from credit. So you need to glue this team to work together. How do you do that? You coordinate the activities. So if you are a project manager, one of the expected roles that you're going to play is coordination and facilitation of different teams. If you don't do that, you're not going to have coordinated effort towards delivering the same project. So it's also quite important that you do that. And in project management, normally what is very important is to make sure that whether it's scope or it's activity, it's actually done. So in your current project or in your current job, current position in an organization, you can even start by tracking even departmental activities. You want to make sure that something that was agreed is being followed and it's also being done. So practically, that's one of the things you can do. You can start tracking things, and you can also start following up on some activities just to make sure they're done. I can tell you as a project manager, there's no way you can talk in a certain meeting, then things, they just work like that. There's a process in project management called monitoring and controlling project activities. So this is where you have to make sure that things are being done as planned, as being also tracked. So you need to follow up. You need to check if it's quality, are people applying the proper stages to make sure you have the right quality, and so on and so forth. Then also in your current job, what you can also do is also to volunteer to write some of the reports, okay? It might not necessarily be a project report, but the fact that you are able to consolidate some knowledge, you're able to consolidate some discussion, some points into a usable report or into something that is very clear in terms of a report, then it's quite important because it's also required when it comes to project management. So it is very important that you can offer also to write some of these reports. So the other way to practice is to volunteer on side projects. So I can tell you, this is one of the best ways to gain experience in project management. You can volunteer even at church. There are so many projects that can, not just church as such, but any religious gathering. You can also volunteer to do some community projects, okay? You can also lead them. You gain some experience from doing that. You can even do something that is practical to yourself. I've seen people practicing to do project management by planning and running painting of their houses. I've seen even senior programmers who want to be project managers. They practice being project managers by even creating their own application, okay? And I've seen others even talking about project management or tutoring, which means educating other people or even mentoring other project managers. So there are so many ways of being practical when it comes to project manager. One of them is just to volunteer to do those side projects. Then, in terms of practice, you can also take some junior roles as project managers or in a project environment. For example, you might want to be a project coordinator. I can tell you, you learn a lot of things. You might also want to be part of a project management office. We normally call it PMO. It's also another practical way of trying to also gain experience. Or probably you might want to even be an administrator. Project administrator is very important, I'm telling you. All my projects, I make sure that I have a project administrator. If you want to understand more about what is the need and purpose of a project administrator, I've also created a video on the project administrator. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So when you offer to be a project administrator, you get exposed to so much that goes on in a project environment. So it's something that you can also request to do. So practice, which is the fourth stage of project management, is very, very important. This is where you can even increase the confidence level in you when it comes to project management. So in this section, we are going to cover the fifth stage of the journey to becoming a project manager. Remember I said 5, we've covered 4 of them. So the last one is equally important. And this is what we call the mastery stage of project management. So what do we mean by this? You have gone through your research and you have decided that you want to be a project manager based on the outcome of your research. You have also gone through your education, which means you have gained the domain knowledge in terms of project management. You now understand the domain language of project management. If someone says manage scope, what does it mean? If someone says work breakdown structure, what does it mean? So you now know that. Then you have also certified. Certification, it means you have proven that you know the knowledge. So you use those certificates to show people that you know project management. Then the fourth one is you have managed to practice, which means you have gained some experience. You have gone through the real life project management environments. You have gone through the challenges that are normally faced during project management. Now, the last one that we're discussing in this section is mastery, which means you now need to master project management. So how do you do that? There are so many ways to master project management. Don't make a mistake I've seen with other project managers who are quick to stop learning after experience and also after certification. Just always be continuously learning. Project management involves a lot of domains or disciplines, if I can put it that way. For example, you have people management. So you might want to learn extra on people management. You have communication management. You want to learn more about communication. You dive deeper. There's quality management. It's no longer about just project. What exactly happens in quality management? If you had someone called a risk specialist, you want to learn more and dive deeper into risk management. So continuous learning is very, very important if you want to master this project management process. Then the second one that I want to talk about is for you to do a mentoring of the next generation of PMs. Like I told you earlier, I always do that. If someone shows some interest in project management, whether they show it to me, they don't show it to me, if I realize that this person is interested in project management, I always try to coach them and I take them through these 5 stages that we have discussed in this video. So that is how you can also help to master. The other one is also to share the knowledge. Like I told you, I have this blog, which I blog about project management. This is where I share the knowledge. And also I have this channel. I'm talking about YouTube channel where I'm talking about project management. So this is not part of the this is not part of the process of being a master of project management. I also have some, I'll leave a link in the description. I also have some LinkedIn pages. I also write articles about project management. I post about project management. So it's quite important that when you want to master these things, always be talking about project management. Whether it's seminars, it's community, social media, it's also very important. It helps you to master this process. Then you might also want to start building stakeholder trust. If you get trusted by stakeholders, you might be requested even to do some few workshops or even trainings when it comes to mastering project management. So mastering project management, it's actually a continuous process that you have to do. In some cases, you might want to recertify where it's necessary. In some cases, you also want to do a higher qualification. For example, you have done PMP. You also want to be certified as a program manager. You might also want to be certified as a portfolio manager. So there are three different ways to certify yourself: portfolio management, program management, and project management. If you want to understand more about the difference between portfolio management, program management, and also project management, I've created a video that will take you through the differences between these three items. So as part of mastering project management, you want to get a higher qualification on top of that. So when it comes to being a master of project management, there are certain traits that are expected of you. And one of them is strategic thinking. Let me expand on that. Remember, I spoke about portfolios, programs, and then projects. So if you now need to master project management, you need to know all those three levels. In most cases, organizations and business, they run a project with a purpose. And one of the purposes is to get some value from that project. It might be something tangible, or it could be something that is not tangible. But at the end of the day, it's a value. So you must be strategically thinking when it comes to mastering project management. For example, you have just joined an organization and you have been requested to run with a certain project. As a strategic thinker, one of the questions you should be asking yourself is, how is it aligned to business goals? How is it aligned to business objectives? Those questions are very, very important. It separates you from an ordinary project manager who just take the mandates, they just go through the requirements, they start planning, then they start implementing, they go through, they create a charter, and then they move like that. But if you are a master of project management, you need to understand why that project is being done. It's very, very important. You cannot just jump into a project and then you start executing. You need to understand why are you doing that project. So one of them is also strategic thinking. Then the other trait is also anticipation. So anticipation is basically linked to risk management. Risk management is very important in a project because you are anticipating certain events to happen which can affect the project positively or even negatively. If you want to understand more about risk management in a project environment, I've created a video on risk management. You can also check it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description below. So anticipation is going to the future and then coming back. You might say, Oscar, you're confusing me on that. No. So you are saying, if this event is going to happen, how is it going to impact the project? So a risk is an event, a future event that may or may not occur. But if it occurs, it graduates to become an issue. It cannot be a risk and an issue at the same time. I've seen so many project managers making that mistake. A risk and an issue, they are totally different. An issue is a risk that has materialized. Okay, so if you are now mastering project management, anticipation is very important. You ask so many questions. If we don't do this, what is going to happen? Okay, say for example, it's construction. If we don't provide weather-proof activities, what is going to happen to our construction project? If, for example, it's an ICT project, if we don't train our people, what is going to happen? So this now shows that you are now mastering the project management process. Then you also have another trait of executive communication. From my experience, executive communication, you cannot avoid it, starting with your sponsor. Okay, a sponsor is just like the owner or someone who is responsible for the success and also for the funding of the project. If you want to understand more about project sponsor or project executive, I've created a video on project executive. You can also watch it on my channel. I'll also leave a link in the description. Executive communication with your sponsor, executive communication with senior management in the organization. There are cases, in my experience, I was being called by senior management to come and explain the project status, especially when you miss the deadlines. So your communication at that level is different from when you're communicating with your team members. Those guys, they don't want to hear things like, we have been having interviews, we have been brainstorming, one of our members has left the project. They're not interested in that. They want to understand the overall status of the project. Are you on track? Are you off track? Is it red, green, or is amber? Okay? That is the kind of communication they want. Are you going to make it? Okay? In terms of budget, how much do you still have? How much do you still need at the end of the project? How much do you think you're going to spend? What kind of effort are you going to put for you to make sure that you deliver the project on budget? And this is where what is called the end value management process comes, which is a set of formulas of trying to appreciate the performance of a project. So that is also very important. Then you also need to be able to influence others without authority if you're mastering project management. I can tell you project management is all about managing people. So if you're managing people, then you should be able to influence the people. You don't need to have a very big title or authority to do that. It's just what we call interpersonal or team skills. You should be able to talk to people. You should be able to influence people to work even over weekends, which is not normally recommended, but if you're behind schedule, you have to do that. Work. Say, for example, there's something what is called to complete performance index, TCPI. This is just a measure of how much effort you're supposed to put in a project for you to deliver on time and also on budget. It's an index. It has got a numeric value. If it's less than 1, it means you don't need to put more than what you're putting at the moment because it's expected you're putting 100%. If it's more than 1, say for example 0.2, it means you have to put 20% more effort towards that. So this is where now the influence of others come into play. Your team is putting 100%, but you're behind schedule, as an example. So you want to influence your team to put 20% more into their effort for you to deliver the project within the budget. So that is also very, very important to consider. You should be able to do that. Then one of the traits also of a master of project management is also to be able to have adaptive methodology. What do we mean by adaptive methodology? Projects, they exist in an environment where you can decide the approach. It could be agile approach, it could be traditional approach, or probably it could be the waterfall. Traditional and waterfall, predictive is the same. So you have gone through the theory, you have gone through the practice. Don't be rigid as a project manager if you want to master this. There are certain cases where you see it's best to apply only agile methodology. I've gone through that process before. There are also some processes where the waterfall predictive is very important. For example, when you're doing construction, it's not very easy to say we're going to apply incremental agile. You need to know upfront how many floors are you going to have for that building so that the foundation is actually designed and constructed to support that. You cannot say, now you're constructing 3rd floor, then you decide, oh, now we need to put 10 more. The foundation might not sustain that. So you need to decide as a project manager which methodology is best. The third methodology, the third methodology that you might also apply is what is called hybrid, which means you have both agile and predictive running at the same time. But there's a variation to that. You might start with agile and then you go to predictive, or you start with predictive, then agile, or even back to predictive. So if you are now a master of project managers or project management, adaptive methodology is very important. You adapt to the environment. You tailor your knowledge, you tailor your methodology to the environment. It's not a matter of saying, because when I was certifying myself, the PM book, they said this, Prince 2, they said this. No. You assess the environment, look at what is applicable and what is not applicable. That is also very, very important. Then when you're mastering project management, I can tell you project management is an aggregation of so many disciplines. You have finance part of it, you have the technology part of it. Sometimes I've seen even legal and even audit guys being involved, the risk guys, change managers, the training. So one of the traits that is also expected from you is business acumen. What do we mean by this? when you are talking as a project manager, if someone in a meeting, okay, where you are presenting your project status, is going to ask you, how are we doing in terms of a return on investment, ROI? You see, return on investment, it's a, it's a financial term that is normally used, or business term that is used to see how much you're going to gain from the investment in that project. You should be able to answer those questions, okay? Someone is going to ask you in terms of what is the power and influence of the stakeholders? Okay, stakeholders, they have power and influence in every environment, whether it's project or non-project. So your business acumen should now become very, 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 very important, okay? There are so many terms that you're going to be using, either to guide senior management or to guide your project members, okay? So it's very important that you also improve on your business acumen. If someone is going to say, Oscar, according to project, how are we doing in terms of the benefit realization? Okay, benefit realization can even apply to projects or non-projects, but you should be able to know those terms. Then one of the items or one of the traits that is expected is also innovation. When you've mastered the project management, you find ways to exist, you find ways to work. Like what I do in my projects, I always make sure that there is a way that I do my things with my team that makes it very easy. For example, if I'm running a project, one of the items I make sure is in place is a project structure. Project structure is very, very important. If you want to understand more about project structure, I've created a video on how to structure a project. It will be very, very helpful for you to understand it. So project structure is one of the items which I normally do, where I have the project manager, project board, project manager, like this, and also the project team leads, and then the project team members. So your innovation becomes very, very important. You find ways to make things work. You can even develop some tools. I also leave a link on one of the project management information system tools that I've created that also helps me to run my project. So your innovation, your creativity becomes even higher because you have mastered what is project management. Then the other trait is on the project management intelligences that you have to manage. You might be asking, Oscar, what are you talking about here? So there are so many, from my own assessment, there are about 7 main project management intelligences that you should be able to apply when you start mastering project management. If you want to understand more about these intelligence that you should build as a project manager, I've also created a video on how to manage some of these intelligence in a project. So one of them is emotional intelligence. What do we mean by this? When you are now mastering project management, you need to be able to manage how you talk, how you speak, how others feel. And this is where probably a video conferencing, calls, or even physical meetings, they become very helpful. You know, what you say and your body language can also influence the response that you get from the other party. There's also what is called cultural intelligence, just getting to understand that people are also different in the way they think. In this day and age, most of the projects, it's multinational, multi-geographical. What it means is you have people coming from different cultures, different environments, different countries altogether. So the way they do things might be totally different from what you expect. So this is where we talk about culture or cultural intelligence that you have to build. The other one is also institutional intelligence. You need to be intelligent in terms of the institution, understand how your institution actually works. It's very, very important that you have that kind of technical knowledge. I'm not going to go through all the 7 types, but what I'm trying to demonstrate here is when you become a master in project management, these are some of the traits that you should always attain or you should always push to have. So, in this section of the video, we're going to cover the 5 mistakes that can slow down your project management journey. So one of them is not doing research or skipping the research phase. Research phase enables you to understand and appreciate what you need to do first in project management. It can also enable you to make a decision as to whether you want to proceed as a project manager or you want to change and do some other profession. So don't make that mistake of trying to skip the research. It's very, very important. Second one is trying to study theory without practice. I'm telling you, it's very important that after every education, theory, online course, you also do the practice. From my experience, there are certain cases where you might not even be able to learn something through reading. It has to be something practical. So always make sure that you have some ways to practice. Remember, we spoke about different ways to practice. One of them is also to volunteer, to shadow some PMs. Some of them is also to run with small projects. You can also even offer yourself to be project administrator and so on and so forth. So theory and practice is very important. Don't skip that process. Then the third mistake that most people they try to do is to chase every certification. I'm telling you, that is not necessary. It's better you get 1 or 2 certifications than you practice. You don't need to do everything. I've seen so many people, if you check on some LinkedIn profiles, they have 6, 7 certification for project management. But if you look at how they make some of these comments, it becomes, you try to understand whether that was very helpful. Even if you see them in practice, I've met one of the project managers who was very qualified in terms of certifications, but he had not done any much in terms of practice. So it was very difficult for that person also to survive. So it's very important that you don't need to chase every certification. You choose which certification to do. And then one of the mistakes also that can even derail your journey as a project manager is to try to wait until you are ready. I can tell you there is never 100% readiness that you can have, even exam. That is why in exam, they don't say you've passed because you got 100%. They give you a range. Say, for example, 70 to 100, 80 to 100, 90 to 100. So when you have decided and intentionally want to be a project manager, it's very important that you also start. Some of these things, they become very clear once you start. I can give you a good example of how I started this channel. If you look at my old videos, they are totally different from what I have now. Why? Because once you start, you gain experience, you gain confidence, you gain momentum. So don't always think that I only have to do that when I'm ready, okay? It's not going to be very much practical. You cannot be saying I'm ready for certification now. You can never say that I'm ready to become a project manager. You create a plan that can move you towards readiness. Then you go straight for it. That is very, very, very important. Then in your journey also on becoming a project manager, one of the mistakes I've seen people doing is ignoring soft skills. I can tell you, soft skills are very important for your survival as a project manager. You need soft skills for communication. Communication is very important. There's nothing that you do in a project that doesn't involve communication. For example, you want to communicate your plan to the team. Not your plan, but the end result of the plan. You want to communicate the work breakdown structure to your team. You want to communicate the risks associated with your project to your team, to the sponsor, and even to the executives of the organization or business. Okay? You want to also communicate progress in terms of how you are doing in the project. You want to communicate change requests. Okay? You want to communicate, if it's an agile environment, you want to communicate the sprint log. Okay? So communication is very, very important. So soft skills like communication, you also need them. Soft skills like just normal conversations with your team. I can tell you it's very important to always have some conversations, formal or informal, with any stakeholder. Okay? Not just your team, any stakeholder in the project. There are certain conversations which, if you always apply them in your project, throughout the project, they help your project to be successful. If you want to understand more about those conversations, I've also created a video on the best conversations that you can have as a project manager in a project environment. So make sure that in your journey, because remember you've decided to become a project manager, you don't make these 5 mistakes. You skip your research, and also you start theory with no practice. You are trying to chase every certification. You are waiting for readiness, and you ignore soft skills. That is not going to help you to achieve your goal to become a project manager. So, in this section of the video, we're just going to try to summarize what we have discussed throughout this video in terms of the journey that you need to go through, the stages that you need to go through for you to complete project management. So we have said you have to go to research. How long does it take? In most cases, research, it takes about 1 to 2 months for you to do your proper research of the project management journey, if you have decided to be a project manager. Then education, we are talking about 3 to 8 months, okay? Which means you're educating yourself. Remember, we spoke about three ways of educating yourself, which is formal, self-paced or self-directing learning, and also practical knowledge that you can also educate yourself. So normally it takes about 3 to 8 months in terms of education. Then we have certification. Certification normally takes between 9 to 14 months. Certification, this is where you are now applying the knowledge. You sit for exam, then you pass, then you are declared to be certified. Remember, you can be certified in CAPM. You can also be certified in PMP. You can be certified in Prince 2. You can even be certified in PMI ACP. So you choose what kind of certification, but in most cases it takes between 9 to 14 months, depending on your pace, your occupation. Say, for example, you're someone who is on a 9 to 5 job. You might find time to read probably in the evening, in weekends. So you might stretch a bit. Someone who might not be busy at work or they're not doing anything, they can take it within 9 months. Then when it comes to practice normally it's about 12 to 36 months. Remember, practice, this is where you're actually doing project management. You're facing what really happens in a project environment. So it takes a bit of time, a year to 3 years, for you to say, now I've practiced project management, I now know, okay? Then the last one, when it comes to mastery. Mastery, this is where you're now demonstrating that you know project management. You can even mentor some other individuals. You can even talk about project management like the way I'm doing here. You can blog about it. You can create YouTube videos. Also, you can even be adaptive to every environment. You have your strategic thinking and so on and so forth. That will take almost 3 years. So that brings us to the end of this discussion. In summary, you need to first research. That is, if you are following the project management journey, you need to research, you need to educate yourself, you need to certify yourself, you also need to practice, then you also need to master project management. If you want me to create additional videos based on what we have discussed in this video, or maybe there's a concept or idea that is not clear to you and you need more information about it, you can reach out to me or you can let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.